we, in understanding and knowing this full story, can see that God from the beginning has always been faithful, true, sovereign. He's God. So when I doubt, I understand that I am a created being that does not understand the full creation I'm in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to doubt my doubts. I know for a fact that I'm a flawed person. I've seen myself make so many mistakes to know that when I doubt, those doubts should be doubted before I doubt God. Like far before I doubt someone who's never made a mistake, someone who's literally flawless.
Yeah.
Before I doubt him, I got to doubt my doubts.
Right.
And it's not unhealthy to be able to ask questions to God, but it is unhealthy to take your doubts beyond God. When you take your doubts and put them in a pedestal that surpasses someone who's absolutely perfect, literally at the place of God.
Yeah.
Because he is God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That is idolatry. That is dangerous.
Yeah.
Hello everybody, we're here with the actual first episode of the MIIOGS Podcast.
About time.
Yeah, it's about time. We're really excited to finally be getting started with this. So today we have a really interesting topic. This is a topic we both have a lot of passion about, and it is deconstruction.
Yes.
Deconstruction, which is like happening a lot recently. We're seeing a lot of people. Deconstruction basically is when we're talking about deconstruction, we're talking about the deconstruction of the faith.
My definition of deconstruction would just be basically what it is, taking apart your faith, deconstructing your faith, and like dismantling your views, if that can say, in a sense of like, reevaluating your reasons for your faith and like what you believe, basically reevaluating your faith.
Right. Yeah. And with that understanding, it's not always necessarily an unhealthy thing, is it?
Yeah. No, I wouldn't say it's necessarily unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can, and in fact, I think that we should regularly think about what we believe, take apart what's not true, what's unhealthy, because we're continuously growing. Like we're not born perfect, you know, and with like the perfect foundation on thinking.
Right.
But it can get dangerous. Is the thing. Yeah.
Definitely.
I was listening, I think, to I don't know if it was like a rapper that was just a Christian rapper who was just talking, or if it was a podcast or something. But I was listening to someone, and they announced that a guy who was like an apologist, his name's Fanatic. He was a rapper, a Christian rapper, really smart guy. He fell away from the faith.
Wow. And
it shook. I was like I didn't get into the Christian rap, like into listening to it from by Fanatic. I wasn't like building my theology on his teaching, but it shook me because Fanatic was way smarter than me when it comes to the faith, when it comes to knowing the Word of God, when it comes to being able to defend the faith. I mean, he knew a whole lot more. Yeah. And I'm like, this guy fell away from the faith, and this is just one of like so many examples of people that are leaving. And it's like, how is this happening? You know, like why? I mean, how can you have been a Christian for so long, like living the lifestyle? I think Fanatic had done like 20 plus years, or maybe 30 plus years or so
wow,
as a Christian and leading people. So you're doing that, and then you fall away. And if you look at like the list of pastors right now that are just leaving, it's like, it's alarming. It's like, yo, how is this happening? And why? You know, and it's
crazy. It's crazy. I was just sharing with you earlier how like I didn't even know what deconstruction was for a while. But I just started seeing deconstruction a lot more in the past year and like this year with like a bunch of worship leaders that were falling away. I don't know if there's like a bunch like people from Hillsong, other people that are like, I know like somebody who's like famous on YouTube. It was just like a lot of people were deconstructing their faith. And I didn't understand why, or like,
right.
You know, I didn't understand, because these are people who they're not like new Christians. They're like believers, like they know the Bible, things like that. Like you said, how a fanatic knew better than you. Even me too. Like I'd be like, how do these people who know so much, like, fall so far, or not fall so far, but just go so far from like in their beliefs? It's like one extreme to the next. Like they're complete opposites. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. And it raises like a lot of questions, like were they, like, was it ever real?
Yeah,
like now because what's happening is, like, you have these leaders, you know, people at all levels of the Christian faith are deconstructing their beliefs and recanting the faith, like apostatizing would be the term, but of all levels. But when the leaders are doing it, it brings in these questions. It's like, was it ever real? You know, like I thought I was, you know, I thought I was pretty firm, but this guy just fell, and he was like, he's way stronger than me. How, like, if he fell, is this, like, does he see something I'm not seeing? And then a whole bunch of people are like questioning, deconstructing, rethinking the faith. And here's the thing. Especially, like, we're looking at the context of Scripture. And the story in Scripture, and everything that we said on this podcast, everything that we're going to say on this podcast, we want to deal with issues in a way that helps build us up and get better. Like, we're growing, you know, we're trying to get better. Doubt's gonna come, you know, the phase of deconstruction, if it hasn't come yet, and if you're a believer, it's gonna come. And it's not something to be afraid of. The question is, how do we navigate through doubting? And how do we navigate through a deconstruction of our faith in a healthy way? You know, in a way that we come out stronger and better. That's our goal, right? And everything that we do.
Deconstruction can be a dangerous thing if you're not, like, if you don't do it the right way. But I definitely think it can be something that strengthens your faith. Because when you ask those questions of, like, why this and why that, and of course we don't always have the answers, you know, but, like, when you get those questions and you go out, you go to seeking the answers for them, they can be things that really strengthen your faith at the end of the day. You know, because a lot of other religions, when you ask people, like, why they believe what they believe, they can give you, like, good reasons why they believe what they believe, and, like, why this is right and things like that, or at least what they believe is a good reason. But when you ask a Christian, why do you believe what you believe, it's not, the answers aren't as concrete as, you know, because if it was, you wouldn't have so many people deconstructing like that, you know, their faith being rocked by a professor asking a question. One question can just shatter their entire theology. That's it's a little wild. It's a little wild. And I, like, it's particularly, like, dangerous, I feel like, for the ones that, like, for example, are in high school and they go to, like, a somewhere, or they put themselves in an environment for school where they're not surrounded by people that are Christian or things like that, and so they're not as affirmed by their faith. When they do get questions like that from college professors or or other people that are around them, they can fall. They're liable to, like, you know, fall when they don't have that support, when they don't go through it the right way.
That's true. That's a good point, because, like, one thing that we're seeing a lot right now, kind of like what you were saying, is that, like, people in Christian environment, like in Christian homes, that, like, their Christianity was, I would say, quote unquote, inherited to them, rather than, you know, something they came to out of darkness, literally. When they're in those environments, it gets more, like, deconstruction tends to be more dangerous, and they, like, we have a lot of people leaving the faith there. And I feel like that speaks on a bigger scale as to what's going on in the USA right now, because, like, the US has been a Christian nation, quote unquote, you know, from its birth. And the reason I say quote unquote is because we have what we would call, what I would call, rather, a cultural Christianity. And that's, like, what a child has when they're born in a Christian home. It's a cultural Christianity. It's not their own yet. You know, you have to claim it for your own, for it to become, like very real. And the U.S. has had a cultural Christianity from its birth.
Yeah.
And you see that with like some very big national issues that happen, that are embarrassing. You know, like if you apply the principles of Proverbs in your life, you're going to succeed. If you apply the principles of the Bible to the way you govern, it's going to be pretty good. You know, like the principles of the Bible are powerful, and they will lead to success whether you are a Christian or not. Yeah. And America's done an amazing job at applying the principles of the Bible to its government. But the Christianity has always been cultural. And what I mean by that is like you can have this culturally Christian nation that has had some of the most like atrocious moments in its history. You know, things that that people aren't proud of, like slavery, for example. You know, and I'm talking like I recently read the autobiography of Frederick Douglass, which if you haven't read that, it's really, really good. That book is one of the very few books, one of two, that made me cry. Wow. Made me literally cry physical tears from reading this book.
Wow, I'm gonna have to read that.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. But you see in his story, his slave owners were Christian. And they went to church on Sunday, and the next day were abusing their slaves like it absolutely inhumanely. You know, and so we have this is, to me, a principal example of what cultural Christianity can look like. And we're getting to a day and age right now where our culture is all about authenticity. Authenticity and cultural Christianity collide like they collide really bad. And so one thing is gonna prevail, either a cultural Christianity, which is not authentic, or authenticity, which says you throw off what's not authentic. And if that be your Christian faith, throw it off. Because it wasn't authentic. It wasn't real from the get-go. Like there was some kind of a disconnect between normal life, which you perceived as reality, and your faith. And that's what we're seeing that happen a lot right now.
To me, when somebody goes about deconstructing, they go about it by using like their intellect, and like they use kind of like the world's wisdom to define or like to determine whether or not the Bible is true, or whether or not, you know, the principles or the things that they know to be true are actually true. And of course, you know, it's not a bad thing, like we've said already, to doubt and stuff, but I think it's important to do it the right way.
That's right.
Yeah. And this verse in Romans that I had found recently, I think explains it very well, of the kind of world we're living in right now as it pertains to that community, like deconstruction and that whole thing. So it's in Romans 1 verse 21 to 22, where it says, "For though they knew God, they did not glorify him as God or show gratitude. Instead, their thinking became nonsense, and their senseless minds were darkened. Claiming to be wise, they became fools." Wow. Yeah, that's already like, wow.
Yeah. That speaks like right volumes, to the heart.
Right, exactly. Right. It's pretty on the nose. And like, so like, it's like the wisdom of the world is really way lower than the wisdom of God. In terms, you know, like very simply, like God used wisdom to make the earth. You know, he's the author of wisdom, even. You know, so like to know that God is like the source of all wisdom. And to take the wisdom of the world and somehow come to the conclusion that the wisdom of God is wrong, or come to the conclusion that the world that the Bible depicts is wrong, is, to me, a bit far-fetched. Very respectfully, you know. Now, to be like very, because I think this is important. This is a question I want to ask you, actually. Have you ever deconstructed anything in your life?
Oh, for sure, dude. For sure. Actually, I think that I was talking with my sister the other day, and it was like about like something completely not related to this, you know, not about like deconstructing the faith, right? But about something else I was just like questioning her on, and I was asking her a lot of questions, and I was telling her it wasn't because I disagreed with what she was doing or at all, because I didn't. But rather, I feel like questions help us strengthen why we do what we do. Yeah. And that always is important. I'm getting to a stage right now where I want to be stronger in what I do. So I should question when there isn't certainty, you know. And when it comes to my faith, there has been some deconstruction in the past maybe 3 years. Wow. Of dealing with others that have completely left the faith, that were like friends for a while, and they left the faith. And like knowing how to cope with that. What should I tell them? Yeah. You know, like being able to like actually just sit down and listen to them, because that's huge. You know, for us as believers to actually listen to people who leave, and not listen in a way that we're just like trying to figure out how to come back, like figuring out our response and figuring out the right argument, but listening to like understand where they are. Yeah. And in understanding, we're not just my friends, but even like I spend a lot of time listening to what I would call antimonies, which are like testimony, like the opposite of a testimony when someone comes to faith. Yeah. People leaving it, their story of how they left it. Listening to a lot of these and just being like, man, so many people are talking about how much happier they are after leaving and all of these things. I'm like, why is that? You know, why all of this this peace and joy after they leave? And versus as to when they were quote unquote Christians. And it to me, I think it really boils down to they were living that double life, you know, and eventually one thing had to have been shed. And when it was shed, it was a relief. You know, when you take a burden off of yourself, it's a relief. But when it came to my own personal deconstruction, I have always addressed it in this way. I listened to this song by KB called Doubts. Shout out to KB. I love that guy's music. But KB has this song called Doubts. And it is such a good song when it comes to this topic, where he's doubting his faith in the song at the verse, and the chorus is it goes like, if I were honest, I'm doubting, right? But by the end of the song, he begins to doubt his doubts. And that's the way that we have to deal with life. Like if we look at this story, you know, we just went through from Genesis all the way to Revelation, looking at the complete story of the Bible and seeing who as the protagonist. It was God, right? From the beginning all the way to the end. We're nothing but a supporting character. At times, we're even playing the role of the antagonist, most often throughout the story, in fact. But we are not the protagonist at all. And sometimes when we go through life thinking we are, we can think that our understanding of life, our understanding of God, and all these things is the ultimate understanding. But if that happens, our doubts have so much reason. Like when we doubt the faith and it's not making sense to us, we should leave. Because like if we don't think it's right, it's not right. But rather we, in in understanding and knowing this full story, can see that God from the beginning has always been faithful, true, sovereign, divine. You know, he's God. He's God. So when I doubt, I understand that I am a created being that does not understand the full creation I'm in. So I'm going to doubt my doubts. Like, I mean, I know for a fact that I'm a flawed person. I've seen myself make so many mistakes to know that when I doubt, those doubts should be doubted before I doubt God. Like far before I doubt someone who's never made a mistake, someone who's literally flawless. Before I doubt him, I got to doubt my doubts. Right. And it's not unhealthy to be able to ask questions to God, but it is unhealthy to take your doubts beyond God. When you take your doubts and put them in a pedestal that surpasses someone who's absolutely perfect and literally at the place of God. Because he is God. You know what I mean? Right. Literally that high. That is idolatry. That is dangerous.
Yeah, it's even pride.
It is. That's true. That is true.
That's you made a few really good points there, but I was curious to know if you had ever deconstructed something. And I see that a lot of sense. Yeah. Definitely in my own life as well. Like more recently, actually, at the beginning of this year, 2022, I was challenged a little bit by the Holy Spirit in figuring out what my foundation was. And that was an interesting thing for me. Wow. Because here I am, just to give a little backstory of who I am. I grew up in a Christian home, all my life. In the summers, I used to go to church every day. Like, that's how it was. Wow. Every day.
Every single day.
Every single
Monday,
day.
Tuesday. Yeah.
Literally every day of the entire week.
Oh, boy.
Church twice a day.
Wow. Yeah. Twice a day, every day.
Every day. Man. Every summer. Yeah. So, that's the kind of background. I've lived in this thing. Right. Breathed it. In and out. But, of course, it wasn't until sometime, I think I was like 12. I was like 12 when I first got saved, and then there was like periods where I'd like fall back and then come back, things like that. But then like I really took it serious for myself when I came to college, when I went to school. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So I was always a Christian growing up and everything. I knew and I was taking it seriously, but it was never like I was challenged when I got alone by myself and was forced to do things by myself. So that's where I saw like where my faith really was. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of the background I'm coming from, is very deep roots of church, deep church roots.
Church culture.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. So just recently, like when God had challenged me a little bit on what my foundation was, I was a little confused. I'm not gonna lie, I was a little confused because I was like, my foundation is obviously in you, like in God, because that's been my whole life. It's just been church. So like, how can my foundation not be? But then like after I was challenged with that, time went by, and like I started going through these little things, I think, that really tested that foundation that I had. And one of those things, and this is like a big thing that a lot of deconstructionists go through when deconstructing. Like it can be like one of the first things that like pops into their head before like opening the door to the full barrage of questions. Yeah. And that's like, who am I? Right? Questions like that. Those big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? Why do I believe what I believe? It all goes down to that foundation. Yeah. And it's interesting. My own personal journey of that has been to just deconstruct. Like, I know who I am, but why do I know who I am? Why do I believe what I believe, type thing? And that was a weird place for me. I'm not gonna lie, a weird place, because I had been through some like this question before, where I questioned who I am, like why I am who I am. And wow, this is interesting that I'm sharing this right now. Yeah. I just realized I'm being a little vulnerable. Oh, okay, but no. So so like I had gone through that before, and having gotten that answer before, I thought I was done with the question of identity. Right. Yeah. I know who I am. So, but now it was like, okay, I know who I am, but why do I know who I am? Why should I be sure of who I am? Right. And it took me in this journey to where like, and like you said, I love how you said this too, like to doubt your doubts. That's such a big thing, not to take your doubts past God. That is like, wow, like that's profound right there. Yeah. Because it's so true that like how you said, you're a created being. So how can you even doubt the person that you first believed created you, But of course it's normal that you do, but when you do, realize that you are a created being and that your thinking is flawed, your ways are flawed, you don't have the answers. Yeah. And so your basis for what's truth and what's not truth, there has to be an absolute truth first of all. Yeah. Right. So it should come, if you're already a Bible believing person, if you're a believer, when you go about deconstructing, go from the Bible's basis of deconstructing. Yeah. And don't take culture's wisdom, culture's definitions and intellect, and separate and say, all right, I'm gonna look at it from outside and say, okay, like, I don't know, if I'm making sense. Like, when don't your foundation already, if you're deconstructing, it'll show you where your foundation is. That's right. Because if you're deconstructing and your foundation is based on like Instagram, culture, you know, things like that, society, what society says.
Yeah, like what did this guy say? What did that guy? What about this? You know, what about that guy?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. You'll question your beliefs based on what those are, you know, but you should question your beliefs of like, who am I? Why is this true? Based on the Bible, the foundation that you built. Yeah. And so that's the question I would ask viewers right now. Right. You know, what are you standing on? Yeah. What are you standing on? What are your beliefs based on? And it's interesting for the case of like, just like tie this whole thing off. It's like interesting for Christians that have been in the faith for so long. That's an important question, is why do you believe what you believe? Because if somebody can come and just convince you a little bit, right, you know, you can fall away from the faith. You can build your foundation so high, but then when it's tested, you find that it was built on wood and not like stone and bricks, you know? And I don't know. I said a lot there just now, but
I mean, like, if you're a person alive today, unless you're maybe one, actually, I'm not even gonna say one, like, literally, if you're any person alive today, someone is smarter than you. You know, maybe you are the expert in one field, like the leading expert in one field, but you're not the leading expert in every single field on the planet. There's no way. Right. So someone is smarter than you in something. Yeah. No matter who you are. If someone was able to convince you with logic that this faith is the way and all these things, there's someone who can give you even better logic. And so when we go into like there is a beauty and an importance and a biblical importance in apologetics and in theology. Absolutely. But there's a danger, you know. The devil always takes what's good and he twists it. Just like we saw in the story that we were evaluating earlier of the Bible. But if the devil can take something as awesome as apology, which is defending the faith, and twist it, what is it? It becomes like the concept that you can get in your mind that you actually are defending the faith versus defending your faith. Like, there's a huge difference. God does not need defending. The faith does not need any defending at all. Not on my part, not on your part, not on any of us human beings' part. You know, it is the way. It's perfect. It's fine. It's fine. It doesn't need your help defending it. And it's not threatened because some really smart atheist has some really good arguments. It's not threatened by it. Even the smartest of our wisdom is nothing but folly to God. So the defense is, it's your defense. It's being able to give an answer for why you believe what you believe, and being stronger in what you. That's what it is. It's for your betterment. You know, it's for that's what apologetics is. And if you go into it as anything beyond that or bigger than that, you're going into danger. And you know, when it comes to us being able to defend or explain concepts of eternity, this is one of the big things I got when I heard that Fanatic had walked away. This is one of the big things that I like in asking questions and just thinking through things that I feel like the Lord kind of put on my heart was you can get into the trap. We can get into this trap of having the temptation, the desire, the thrill of being able to explain concepts of eternity through the concept of the Bible. I mean, through the lens of the Bible, through the lens of Christianity, the lens of the faith. And if you come to Christianity simply, like, if you come to Christianity, I'm happy, I'm proud, I'm rejoicing, I'm glad. You know, but if you come to Christianity simply because it is the best thing that explains the questions of eternity and the universe and how things came about and all that stuff. I'm happy, but you got a lot. You got a lot more to grow in before that. You know, before that becomes actually strong. Because there can be other things. Like there will be questions where like, wait, but this doesn't make sense. Wait, hold on. Like when I first came, like it was like yes, like everything was making sense. But now that I'm growing, this doesn't make sense. Like, what about this? What about that? Like, how could a good God let this happen? You know, how could a sovereign God be in a world where evil's permitted? You know, he's sovereign and he's perfectly good, yet evil exists in this world. What like I have questions and I don't understand. And while I can be up there and I'm giving what explanations I can, these doubts are still growing, and eventually they're gonna grow out of proportion and be dropped. But the issue was from the get-go. From the get-go, the reason for coming and the reason for staying and quote unquote growing was all about your ability to explain questions and matters of eternity through the lens of the faith. When in reality, if we are being brought to this faith, the reason should simply be Christ. You know, our anchor should be Christ. Our reason for staying should be Christ. And the redemption that he's brought through his blood. The questions of eternity will always be there. They will always, as long as we're on this planet, you know, going through life, we will always have things that we cannot explain about our current reality. You know, there will be people that will ask you, that will ask me questions that I won't be able to answer logically with my brain because I don't know. That's always going to be the case, but it's not a reason or a place for me to leave because that wasn't my foundation in the first place. I didn't come to Christ because he explained everything and it all made sense and I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'm gonna follow you now. No. I came to Christ because he gave his life for me to be restored unto God. You know, just the way that I was created to be. He actually paid the payment that would have been my life. That the proper payment would have been my life. Death, you know. But he paid it for me to be. That's why I came. That's the good news. That's the gospel. Not. It's the gospel is not the earth was created in 6 days by God. That's not the gospel. You know, it's a part of the gospel, but it's not the full gospel. It's not, you know, an ability to explain a certain aspect of eternity. But it's Christ and what he did to redeem man back to God.
Everybody should have a reason why they know, you know. Like, they should know why. You're not just blindly following God. Don't be blind in following God. Because if somebody asks you, you won't be able to respond, you know. So, like, that's really good. I know in my own personal life, too, like, the things that I've been through, you know, and, like, just having God be there, like, there's just no way God's not real for me. There's just no way. There's no way. What I've come through, what, you know, I've just seen God's hand. I've just seen God's hand. And it's been a beautiful struggle, you know? And, like, I feel like that's, like, the life of many believers, honestly. It's the cycles we go through. It's a beautiful struggle of getting stronger through those struggles each time, you know. With God, it's that victory that we have. I did have this other verse. If we're going back to, like, wisdom, I think I had meant to mention this before, but it's in 1 Corinthians 3 verse 19 and 20, where it says, for the wisdom of this world is foolishness. With God, since it is written, he catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the reasonings of the wise are meaningless.
Whoa.
Whoa. Goes back to a lot of things, you know, like we had mentioned before. If somebody can convince you into believing God, it's not enough because somebody can convince you out of it as well. And that's an important that's an important thing. And, like, honestly, believing in God, and I feel like atheists kind of bring this up, is that how you were saying, like we can't explain everything, like we don't have all the answers and stuff, but atheists, I feel like, are at least the ones that go on, like, the scientific side of things, would like to be those ones that are able to explain everything and stuff. And they don't like the concept of faith. But honestly, it takes faith to sit on this chair and for me not to know that it won't break. You know, it takes faith to do a lot of things. And same with the Christian walk. Intellect is one thing. We need to definitely know God, like have the knowledge of who God is. But we also need the extra part of faith, if that makes sense, to tie things together. And I feel like that's where people can get a little bit confused sometimes. And like, I like how you said, like, you won't know everything. You know, we're not going to have all the answers and things like that.
Yeah. I think about some of the, just like the different circles I've interacted with in the church, and hearing very different perspectives. People like to demonize all sorts of things. Like, for example, some people will demonize people that just like completely are intellectual about their faith. Some people will demonize people that are completely experiential, like experience, with their faith. But the Word of God says, in Matthew and Mark, Jesus is talking. He says, he's asked what the greatest of all the commandments is. He says it's to love Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength. Everything that makes you a human being. You're to love Lord your God with that. And love is action. You know, love is action. How can I actively love the Lord my God with my mind, with my intellect, you know, with my heart, you know, with my very soul, like everything that I am. I'm to love the Lord my God with it. So I should be seriously engaging and learning more about my God, theology. I should grow. I think every Christian should be a theologian. You know, I'm not saying every Christian should go to seminary. You know, but we should study the Bible. We should study God. We should study our God. We love Him, and we want to know more about Him. When a guy really likes a girl, he wants to know more about her. He remembers what her favorite color is. He doesn't remember the favorite color of any of his friends, but he remembers the favorite color of this girl he has a crush on. You know, so when we're trying to learn more about this God that we love, it's a critical thing. But we also want to delight, want to seek out, want to take very, very seriously the experiences that we have with them. You know, and be experiential with our God. You know, experience God. It's a huge thing. Everything that that we can do to interact, to grow closer, to further foster and develop our relationship with God has to be done, which comes into this thing where like on anything can be taken out of balance, you know, and you can have people that completely take intellect, and like intellect at that point becomes just like, I feel like sometimes people are on two sides of the table, but they're almost committing the same problem. Where like you have an atheist who idolizes their intellect, and you have an apologist who idolizes his intellect. But the difference is they have different points of view. Like the one atheist believes with all of his intellect that the world came into being through a big bang or for something. I don't know whatever his explanation would be, and the Christian would say it was through God, but all of it's about how they can prove it. You know, and it's that can get very dangerous. Person, if they're asked the wrong questions, could recant their views because intellectually it's not making sense. Wrong God. Or another person who's completely experiential. Like I was just listening to an anthem. Actually, we were talking about it, of the girl. What was her name again?
Michaela Cole.
Yeah, Michaela Cole.
If she ever sees this, we want to say. I just want to say, you're very talented. You know? we love your work.
Indeed, no, she's good.
She's good. So good.
But she was talking in an interview that I was listening to about how she kind of left, and it was like she came to the faith through an experience, and that happens to a lot of people. They felt something, you know, they experienced something, and they're like, this must be God. And it could have been, you know, kind of thing. But as soon as the wrong questions are asked or things are being brought up, we're like, what's that experience? Because the devil will always make you doubt. Did God really do that? Did God really say you shouldn't eat of it? And did God really say you're gonna die? You know, like all these things. Like he comes and causes us to question even the experience we had. I don't know how many times I've had these amazing experiences with God, and later was brought to question myself: was that really God, or was that me just being imaginative and creating these scenarios in my head? Like, was that God? Or was that me? And that will happen. That's the danger of experiential. And so that can be reversed on its head. So if your God is what you experienced, that's idolatry. If your God is what you can prove with your intellect, once again, idolatry. We got to get to a place where we are constantly pruning away all of the things that are not God from who he is. You know, like kind of like what we said earlier, we are trying to grow. When we get into places and phases of deconstruction and doubting and all these things, we want to come out stronger. And how do we do that? It's by keeping in mind, we know this story, you know, we keep it at the forefronts of our minds, and we know who the protagonist is, who God is. And we do not allow all these other things that want to come and take his place. We do not allow them to take his place. But we continuously seek to get closer and closer to the heart of the living God, the creator of the universe, and keep him at his place in our hearts, which should be the throne. He should have the throne of our hearts.
Definitely. Yeah, so good. And like, I like how you said, like, we should not let things get in between our relationship with God. Like, we should not, you know, like, I think, you know, this is something that, like, all Christians should develop, is that resiliency to not let stuff get in between your relationship with God. You got to be strong. I'm sorry, like, this you got to be tough a little bit. You got to grow tough in your faith. You can't let just anything come and just shake you. You know what I'm saying? Just push you and move you out of what you believe. You have to be strong.
That's true.
You know,
and it's like it's a big thing right now, like, because in our, like, the American Christian circles, it's something that we have to take with the most urgency possible. When we look at some of the strongest Christian groups, I'm talking about group, not individuals necessarily, but groups, churches, you know, they're often born in persecution, and they are firm in what they believe because they have to be tough. And they literally are going to look down the barrel of a gun and maintain their faith. You know what I mean? Like, their life is on the line and they maintain it. Their faith is born in great adversity. Our faith is born in great comfort, which is dangerous, and it makes it really hard for us to stay resilient. But we have to be, like, even more zealous and determined to remain resilient in our faith, because of the fact that we were not born in that diversity. Like, adversity. We were born in comfort. Our Christianity came at a place where a lot of times you were in a church with a lot of other people that were encouraging and clapping their hands and happy for you to come to Christ. And the world, like, we can try to antagonize and say how much the world that we live in right now is absolutely against our Christianity. I'm talking about the American world. I'm not talking about the world in general. But in reality, no one's gonna shoot you in the streets because you're a Christian. You know, that's a very rare thing. It's a very rare thing to happen in the USA.
Definitely.
It's not. USA was kind of built on some Christian founding fathers. You know what I mean? Like, it was built on some Christian principles. So it's not as antagonized as our legacy as the Christian people, as the Christian body. Our legacy has had a lot more serious stuff.
Definitely.
So we have to take that seriously.
Definitely. I definitely agree. And it reminds me of, like, I don't know, it makes me think about, like, we've all met people who, like, don't know how to sing that well, but love to sing still. Right. I'm sure there's a lot of people like that, you know, that can relate to not being able to sing but loves to sing. Those people are the most resilient people. You can tell them to shut up as many times as you want and they will still sing. They do not care. They will go. And, like, we have to be like that, you know, with our faith. You can tell me whatever you want, but I'm gonna still be on my, you know, on my stuff with my word, you know, with God, because I know who God is to me. You know,
that's true.
God is great and He's good on a big, wide, like, in a broader perspective, but also individually to me. I know why God is good for me personally. You know, and that's why, it breaks my heart to hear things like, when I deconstructed my faith, I just became so free, and I've just become such a better. Oh wait, I don't want to seem like I'm mocking. I'm not mocking anyone. Wait, this is just what I've heard. I've heard people say things like that, like, I've been a much better person, and I hope to continue to be this person on this path, on this journey of deconstruction. There's more people like me. I'm not alone. That is true, but it breaks my heart because you just see how the extent of how much like they were rocked, you know. Right. And this Christian walk is a tough walk. It's not an easy walk. And the deeper you get in your walk with God, you have to grow bigger, like deeper skin, you know, like thicker skin. There we go. You have to just become tough and resilient. Like you said it so well of how we as Christians, you know, in America, we're like born again in comfort. We really are. That's so true. Somebody who has to face that adversity in different countries where like you're killed for being Christian, they do like that resiliency is mind-boggling to me, you know. Like they'll be killed for their beliefs and they still hang on to them. If they can be on their beliefs like that, if they hold on to their views and their beliefs that much, how much more should we who have the community that we have, you know, whose country was built on principles that are Christian, you know, like we've pointed out. We need to be on our strength game, you know. And
no, that's huge, man. I love Paul, who encourages us to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. You know, like we have to take this thing seriously with the fear of God. Like if I can encourage anyone in any way, like if you know you listen to this podcast, however long it's going to end up being, this episode, and you take one thing away from it, it's that God has to be on the throne of your heart, even when doubts come. Doubts are fine. Doubts are fine. In fact, I like we kind of started this off. And you were able to give a pretty good definition of what deconstruction really is. That can be a healthy thing. Especially when you do it with God on the throne and doing it in the right way. I'm really encouraged. I was gonna read the whole response that God gave in the book of Job. But I don't have time. I'm gonna actually read something else in a bit.
Okay.
But Job was going through some serious deconstruction. Like actual serious stuff.
Wow.
And I know that in life, you know, we can go through a lot. You know, we can deal with tragedy, with the deaths in family, sickness, all these kinds of crazy things that make us question God and his goodness and presence in our lives. But Job was dealing with it. He was dealing with it. He was a righteous man and he lost everything he had. And his closest people, his friends and his wife, were all just telling him to curse God and die. That's what his wife specifically was saying. The friends were convinced he sinned to incur, like, to get the wrath of God. But despite all of these things that were a process for him of deconstruction, I encourage anyone who's going through that to read the book of Job. It's powerful.
Definitely.
But despite all of that, he refuses to deny and curse God, but rather he goes to God with his questions. He goes to God and he expresses his frustration to God. And that's where they belong. That's where our doubts belong. God answers him. And like when you look at the book and all that he has to deal with, Job, like literally the story is set up. He's a righteous man. God's praising Job in heaven. And Satan's like, just wait, if he deals with this and this and that, he's not going to do well. So it feels almost like, all right, we have the situation, the classic scenario of a good person who's dealing with a lot of suffering. So what is God going to say to that? Why do good people suffer? God doesn't give a response. I mean, not to that specifically. He does give a response, though. That should help us deal with life as we're waiting for all the questions that we have. And that's, he goes and he like, the classic passage where he's talking about the behemoth, the dinosaur. You know, he's like, who created this beast? Who can tame it? You know, who he takes him through all of creation in this like very poetic way. And it's like, who is divine? Is basically what he's asking him. Who rules it all? Who created it all? Don't doubt me. You know, my wisdom, my power, it is far greater than anything you can imagine. Far greater than anything you can imagine. Don't forget who's sovereign. That is the key. You know, do not forget who is sovereign and who reigns. That is so critical.
You know? Definitely. I love that part of Job too, because it makes me feel small, and it makes God look really big. Yeah. Comes in like a big,
God just straight up flexes.
Legit flex. It just comes out. Like, that's definitely a good one to read for people that are going through deconstruction, for sure, like you said.
Yeah, but there's this passage in 1 Corinthians that it speaks volumes to me. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, and I'm going to start with verse 26. And this, to me, speaks a lot to the place where we can be at, especially when we're seeing people like pastors. I can't think of a whole lot of names right now off the bat. I know Joshua Harris fell away. There's like the example with like Fanatic, who was an apologist, a Christian rapper. Yeah. There's and a few. Fell away, and there's like, a lot of people, especially like specifically pastors and leaders, and people are falling into sin too, like Ravi Zacharias, who just falls into sin, and he had given so much, just logical defenses for God, like for the faith, and just like things that make it feel like atheism doesn't even make no sense, just really. A great thinker. And so we're seeing all these quote unquote heroes in the faith fall, like leave the faith or fall into crazy sins. And this to me helps me a ton. Here's what it says: 1 Corinthians 9:26. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. This is Paul speaking. All right. Now, this also, like, when it comes to resiliency, this is what this is talking about. Yeah. He keeps himself as absolutely disciplined as he can be, so that he stays firm. Yeah. Why? For what reason? Because Paul has the fear that even after he's preached to all these people, he himself could be disqualified. And it's like, wait, hold up. If Paul, Apostle Paul, who wrote so much of the New Testament, had that fear of being disqualified, who am I to think, that I'm given this free green pass of any kind? Like I am not saying that you're constantly in you should constantly live in doubt and fear of whether your salvation actually worked. That's not what I'm saying in the slightest or encouraging. Yeah. What I am encouraging is taking resilience, because 1 Peter 5:8 tells us that the devil is roaming around like a lion seeking who he can devour. And we're seeing him devour people, even some great leaders. Yeah. But if we're taking things like you were saying, dude, you brought up this point, like a very important point of resilience. If we take this so important, that we are like our faith so important that we discipline ourselves to the absolute max, so that we can remain resilient, we can remain vigilant and ready for the attacks of the enemy, which are coming. And not a lot of people respond too well. We're gonna have a completely different attitude when we're dealing with this. Definitely. When we're dealing with doubts, because we know that, like, honestly, sometimes they can just be things that are helping us think better about who God is. Yeah. But a lot of times they can just be literally attacks of the enemy that are going to destroy if we're not vigilant. If we're not vigilant and taking it seriously. I'll say it again. We gotta work out our salvation with fear and trembling. It's so critical. When we're dealing with doubts. And phases of deconstruction.
Big leaders like Ravi Zacharias, it's disheartening to see. And like most recently, should we be name dropping this one? I don't know if you saw this.
I don't know.
Christian rap. Somebody in the
Gavi.
Brother, man. And this guy, talented guy, Christian rap artist, talented guy, but he also fell into sin. He fell into stuff that was a bit shady and stuff. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking Ravi or anyone. Right. Because one thing that's very true, in everyone's life, of like any believer's life, is that we're not all the way perfect. We're always progressing. We're always trying to get to where God wants us to be. But there's struggles that we all go through. Yeah. There's struggles that we all go through. Nobody's perfect. You don't know what people are going through behind closed doors, you know. And I'm sure that I don't know the full situation with him or anything like that, but I know it's like not what he wants to be in that kind of situation and things. And so I feel for him in that way. Yeah. But, you know,
I mean, and like things like that, you know, it's complex because these are issues that are supposed to be dealt with in privacy. Yeah. And when you become a public figure, everyone knows about it. But don't forget, I encourage us, you know, all the people listening, those who are like actually like not involved in his life specifically, to remember that you're not involved in his life. You know, to remember that these are private matters, and to be careful with the way that you talk and deal with things like that, because it reflects on your testimony as a believer. Yeah. We always want to reflect and display Christ. Yeah. Christ died for us. You know, we were pretty messed up. Yeah. And we continuously mess up. Yeah. We're all flawed. We're all making mistakes. Like I look at people like Gavi and I don't feel like, you know, I personally, I don't feel like I'm exempt from the sin and I can stand on this pedestal and judge. Yeah. I know I have made mistakes. I have disgraced Christ who died, gave his life, suffered for me. I am in a place of nothing but grace, man, and I can do nothing but give it. Yeah. If I am in no place for judgment. I can communicate. Another KB quote, by the way. He says, "I am not." I don't remember what song exactly it was. Okay. He said, "I am not the judge. I communicate what the judge says." I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can communicate what he's already said, but I'm not passing any judgments. Right. You know, because I'm in nothing but a place of grace, and it's important when dealing with, especially like public figures, like we got to remember, and brothers as well, like people that are in our intimate circles, to deal with it in grace, and remember that it's for the people in those circles. Outside of the circles, it's not. You know, you can't do anything about it. Right. So
yeah, and like it's interesting though, just for people that follow the faith because of those people, kind of. You're right. It's interesting because like you don't think that you're following the faith because of those people, but then they mess up.
And then you start realizing.
And then you're like, oh wow, like is Christianity really true? Like is God for real?
That's right.
And like it's that's where you see where your foundation is for real. Your foundation was based on a man, or you know, and that's where I feel like,
and that's where deconstruction's helpful, because if you come to the faith because of a guy, it's fine, it's fine, but you gotta deconstruct, and get your foundation right.
There you go.
Like I will say this a million times, I rejoice to people with people that come to the faith. I don't care necessarily if it was because of a guy, if it was because of experience, if it was because of anything. Why? Because you came to the cross. Right. And that's what matters. From there on, who's perfect? Like, we're gonna work on it. We're gonna get the foundation better. If you're in a place of I don't know, leadership, or you think that you're just like really mature in your faith and you think your foundation is absolutely strong, I'd say like read just a little further in the passage I wrote, like 1 Corinthians 10. Therefore, let anyone who thinks that he stands take heed lest he fall. Be careful if you think you're strong. You know, because you might fall. Your foundation might not be that strong.
Huge.
God looks at all of our wisdom and sees it as nothing but folly. So be careful. And just let's take us where we're at. Like when you come to the cross, praise God and let's go from there. Let's get stronger. Deconstruction can be helpful for that reason. You know.
Definitely. And I like how you said, if you think you're strong, like, be careful.
Watch out.
That's honestly that can be deception, thinking that you're strong when you're not that strong. You know? Assess yourself honestly, I would say, and always know there's more to grow. There's always way more to reach for and stuff. But
that was a good episode.
I agree. That's that pretty much wraps up today's episode. Hope everyone enjoyed. Just want to, we're not firing shots at anyone. You know, I felt like maybe some stuff I said could have been taken out of context. Not the case at all. You know?
Right.
Deconstruction like we said, can be a good thing, and just for it to be done right. And my heart like burns for our generation who like you said, you have friends who have done that. I have friends who have like they're just straying away, and it kind of like sucks to see a little bit. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, like we want to live in our speech to be lifestyles that reflect Christ, reflect love. Christ sometimes did call people out, call them hypocrites. You know,
that's true.
He was confrontational. Yeah. We're not afraid to be confrontational, but especially in this episode, if you took offense, there was nothing offensive. To throw shots. But our heart about deconstruction is just about anything. It's just to see people redeemed to God. Yes. Brought closer to Christ. That's all. Like deconstruction is good when it brings you closer to Christ. Right. Theology is good when it brings you anything. Apologetics is good when it brings you closer to Christ. When not, there's something wrong about it. Yeah. And you got to put it in check with the context of this story.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys understood it, and I hope it helped someone. You know? Most of all, I hope somebody was helped by that.
Amen. Yeah.
But yeah. This is the podcast. First episode. Hope you enjoyed. All right.
Peace out.
Peace.